Okay. Good morning. I was just I was just appreciating the fact that there's this whole world of people who are awake at the same time that I am. I think it's pretty cool that there is just this whole thing of Facebook Live and the ability to share all across the world instantaneously. Like, it's just a marvelous thing. So I had never ever imagined myself doing Facebook Lives. Anybody who knows me like really well, they would be surprised too. But I actually really enjoy it. I really enjoy that there's at least 4 people right now who are sharing the same time frame as I am. So good morning where I am. It's 4 a.m. here. I've been up for about an hour. And this is another one of those questions that has been asked quite often. And I think especially in the United States, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of fear, quite frankly. So people, when they're feeling this fear, they're taking it with them unconsciously, and they're taking it to work with them, and they're taking it to school with them. They're watching the news. They have gotten the reporting. They know what has happened. But then, continuing to watch it, it's a subliminal sort of programming. The way that the images on television are being offered is it not just in the United States? Sorry, I try to stay within the context of what I know for sure. So sometimes I use, the U.S. as an example, because, that's where I live. It's my direct experience. But they're taking this fear and this anxiety that is being perpetuated from imagery, and billions of dollars have been spent on figuring out the best way to manipulate your mind. That's the bottom line. There's a reason that certain words are used. There's a reason that certain images are shown a certain way. And I just might start calling my broadcast Coffee with Ernest. Angela, there you are. And so this is a topic that, a lot of people are asking me about. And I have been addressing these things individually. But every now and then I just like to, hit them in a broad spectrum and, talk about it on Facebook Live. And I appreciate Facebook Live. Like, I was just thinking that as I was hitting the button to go live, that, I really, really am just in awe of the capability, in these days to be able to, you're welcome, to be able to communicate all across the world instantly. It's a really cool thing when you think about it. Like, when you talk about manifesting into reality, there wasn't it wasn't that long ago that a wireless telephone was just, an image in somebody's mind. And then they put that image into the TV show Star Trek, and they had these little, handheld devices, and everybody's like, oh, science fiction is cool. It's just another example of how science fiction becomes, science, things that we use. It's an excellent example of manifestation power and how the manifestation process works. You're welcome. So, I put the word dealing with other people in quotes. So I practice a Chinese martial art. This was the Cleveland workshop that I went to 2 months ago. A lot of really high-level teachers there. And of course, my teacher came. This is one of the books that I was reading this morning. I read it almost every day, and it's The Principles of Tai Chi. It's the principles of how the physical body interacts with the universe, with Earth. For example, using gravity. It's better to use gravity than to try to defy it. So you'll see Taekwondo people, love Taekwondo by the way. They like to do a lot of kicky. And that's cool, you know, very effective. But in my martial art, there are, you know, kicks, but we stay rooted. We stay grounded. We use the principles of the universe to our advantage rather than trying to go against them. Everything in here is applicable to the law of attraction. And this is, you know, the Tai Chi Classics essentially was translated by this guy who is based out of Chicago. But the actual, you know, collection of the Tai Chi principles are thousands of years old. Totally predates Ask and It Is Given, totally predates The Secret, but it's all perfectly applicable. It's following the principles that are there. So I'm going to say some things, and I am aware that some of the things that I say, there's certain subjects that I haven't even touched on. Like, I haven't even approached them because with the wrong audience, it will be met with a lot of tension. For example, if I walk into a bar and I tell them that they're being essentially reprogrammed while they're watching TV, especially the commercials, that's not going to be very well received, you know. So there are. Could you see the author? His name is. I can write it later. Sure. I have another book here that I wanted to explain as well. So I have two books. One is that it's called The Essence of Tai Chi, or it's the Tai Chi Classics, and it's really just a translation and interpretation of 1,000-year-old texts. But I'll post that afterwards, of course. So I'm warming up to this topic because if you're not used to this sort of thing, my mind was the same way. I wasn't used to hearing these sorts of things. I wasn't used to understanding it on an experiential level. So, you know, there's a lot of things that my teacher told me, and at first I was like, slow your roll, buddy. You know, who are you to tell me this? Turns out he was right. In retrospect, he has been right every single time. So what I'm about to tell you, you know, take with a grain of salt. Maybe evaluate it a little bit later if it didn't sound good to you. It is absolutely conducive with the law of attraction and the teachings of Abraham, but I'm going to deliver it in a way that maybe that I understand it, right? So I can only explain it the way that I have embodied it, the way that I have put it into practice. I don't talk about theory too much. I don't really see the point in doing that. I don't think anybody here really needs anything else explained to them. You know, we've had so many books, and we've had so many, you know, YouTube videos, and we've had so many gurus and so many teachers, and, you know, that's wonderful. But now I think in the world there are emerging more workers, you know, people who can help other people cross the divide between theory and application. And that's one of the things that this does. You know, for a martial artist, it can help a person cross the bridge between this idea that we have and actually implementing it in some way. You know, embodying the principle. So we have many spiritual teachers. They write great books. You know, they do retreats and all of those things. They're doing the best that they can. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Emma. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you tuning in. Tuning in, pun intended. Hi, Lisa. I have an interesting sense of humor, I think, but I can make people laugh. I have a really good sense of humor, I think. You have to listen to my coffee swallows. So, the bottom line, nobody is doing anything to you unless they're physically touching you. Hi, Sarah. I'm dropping the bottom line here real quick, so... Oh, thank you. It's my aunt's. I'm staying at their house in Florida. So I'll explain the bottom line. Of course, I have to explain it if I'm going to say it. But the bottom line is outside of physical touch. Tune in and prepare, babe, for school. Got this. Awesome. It's 4 a.m. for me, and I don't have a babe. My son's 17, and I'm one and done. If I could have a t-shirt that said one and done, I would. So it's a hard thing, I think, for people to hear at first sometimes. And then there's going to be other people who are just like, yep, that's 100%. But just work with it, feel it. Does it make sense? Nobody is doing anything to you outside of physical touch. So if somebody puts their hands on me, I'm 37, Cindy, but thank you. Sarah, I'm 2 hours removed from Chicago quite typically. I am University of Illinois, Champaign. That's where my teacher school's at. That's where my restaurant was. DC, I want to go back to DC. I was just talking to my aunt about DC and all the cool things there. I like cool things. Prague, awesome. See, isn't that cool? UK, like how dope is this that we can just communicate and have a chat all around the world? I really feel appreciation for Facebook Live. I have no real agenda to push. I just enjoy sharing. I think very soon I'm going to reduce some of my schedule hours because I'm working on my book, working with some other martial artists to help get their schools going, and it's taking a lot of my time. So I think some of my one-on-one stuff that I've been offering, I might have to start to scale some of that back a little bit, but we'll see. The Facebook Lives I'll keep doing. I don't really have too much else to do at 4 a.m. There's Shayna. She'll be exercising really soon, 4:17. Our hour of power was typically between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. I'll explain exercising too. How to exercise in an effortless way. How to approach exercise effortlessly. How to approach health effortlessly. How to manifest perfect health. What is nasal congestion? Because I don't know. Hi, Shayna. If Lyle was here, he would be annoyed because he's always like got something going on. I never do. I breathe easy. I never have nasal congestion. I never have allergies. I don't have sensitive skin anymore. I wake up feeling fucking fantastic every day. It's been this way now for, I think I'm in my 6th year without a flu-like symptom. I get low energy sometimes if I do a lot of Facebook Lives and I talk with a lot of people. My energy can get a little bit low. Come and join on my world and okay. Yeah, keep talking about that type of thing. I'm happy to help contribute in any way I can. Dairy allergy. My teacher developed a dairy allergy. So he rode his bicycle across Europe, and when he got to Denmark, he ate cheese every day. But he said it wasn't until he came to the States that he became lactose intolerant. Weird. Okay, so I did drop that nugget there, and then I kind of went away from it for a second. But outside of physical touch, nobody is doing anything to you. Nobody is doing anything to anybody. I'll let that soak in for a second. Think about it. When you walk into the office, there's plenty of people who are not vibrating your way. What are they really doing to you? Right? It's all how we react mentally. Rather than react, I would say interact. Because not everything is necessarily a reaction. We get into a pattern of back and forth. And sometimes if you are not checked in, again, the baseline. So I'm sorry if this is repetitive for people, but I have no choice but to talk about the baseline of law of attraction. The baseline of everything spiritual is the power of the present moment. So I'll always go back to that. So I'll give you some examples. I worked at a movie theater, and I was managing this movie theater, and we sit in the break room, and there's maybe 10, 15 employees in there. We had a lot of fun at the movie theater, by the way. Waiting on the top of the roof for the general manager to throw water balloons at him. It was a blast. A very fun time in my life. I had a lot of spiritual growth because I had a lot of time, a lot of space. And I had two amazing hallways that showed me the sunrise and the sunset. So in terms of law of attraction, in terms of Abraham Hicks, we are all different shades of light, so nothing is personal. I like that. Different shades of light. I can dig it. Thank you. Okay, so nobody is doing anything to you outside of physical touch. And I'm working at this movie theater, and this is one of the first times that I realized what people try to do. And for this guy, it was completely subconscious. Like he wasn't even aware that he was doing this. So first of all, he was a pathological liar. He was into mixed martial arts, and he literally showed everybody in the theater a video that wasn't him winning a match. It looked a little bit like him, and then he did a backflip afterwards, after he won the match. And that's what did it for me. I was like, dude, you cannot do a backflip like that. Like, I see you walk. I see you every day. You know, I study the human body in detail. You can't do a backflip, bro. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody, but this video is not you. That's not a part of the story. But so he was the type of guy that wanted to dominate the room. He would walk into a room, quickly evaluate where the energy was, and he would attempt to enforce his will, inflict his will onto the other people by trying to dominate it energetically. So he was very testosterone driven. You know, he was a big, strong guy into mixed martial arts. Bad day today, and them you are talking about it. I'm not sure what that means, Sina. If you want to elaborate, I can try to address it. So he would enter the room, and he would find out who was maybe talking at the time, or where the focus was at the time, and he would instantly try to dominate the room. And I am an extremely observant person. I just sit back and watch this process happen. I watch these cycles happen, and I learn from them. And so that was one of the moments where I saw what was going on and how people let it happen. They were just letting their awareness be absorbed. It's like when you're looking at a cell phone for a long amount of time. What I see is the awareness and the consciousness, like almost like color, just being sucked into the device. Now that doesn't happen as much for me because I maintain peace and I maintain body awareness, even when I'm doing my Facebook Lives. Yeah. So these are actually getting into things called control dramas. And I'm not ready to talk about that yet. I have a feeling that, observing people. Yeah. I'm an observational master. This is what I do. When the mind is still, you see. So, outside of physical touch, if somebody's physically touching you, then they can do something to you, right? I mean, they can try to choke you, they can try to punch you or kick you. That's physical interaction. But outside of that physical interaction, it all goes back to awareness and choice. This is what makes the human being so powerful, is the power of choice. And it is because you're trying to control. You just use two words I don't typically associate with. I don't try, I just do. And I don't control. There is no control necessary. So Tai Chi is the art of giving up control. So later I will talk a little bit about, yes, tunes into your environment and self. All martial arts should be like that. You should be tuned into yourself for more environmental awareness. But in this martial art specifically, it is the art of giving up control. And guess what? Abraham teaches giving up control. Because when you give up control, you allow. But allowing does not necessarily mean passivity. It doesn't mean that you just let somebody punch you in the face. I'm just going to allow this. Instead, I allow their energy to be fully dissipated. So when they try to punch me or kick me, I just move. I change with change. So if somebody is in front of me, if they don't move, I don't move. This is response theory. This is a defensive martial art. There's no offensive technique. That's what I'm doing, Sarah. Teaching everybody more. So, in this martial art, I have learned how to embody this principle of changing with change. It is the adaptation to change which allows the evolution of species, not survival of the fittest. That's what, some testosterone-driven men like to use this term. The strongest will survive. Nah, bro. The most adaptable will survive. The one who can adapt to their environment, adapt to the circumstances, and change with change will survive. Look at the evolution of species according to Darwin. Darwin never said that just because the organism is big and strong, that it's guaranteed to continue to evolve. So an elephant is a very big, strong animal. If there's a drought, it will die. It can't exist in a variety of different environments, whereas the leopard can. The leopard can go to all different environments. You have snow leopards. You have leopards in South America, black leopards. You have leopards all over the world. And I hear that they're actually almost extinct in the UK. I did research that a little bit, and that's sad. But they're one of the most adaptable species on Earth, and they are just continuing to evolve. Dolphins, whales, extremely adaptable. Now, hopefully, I don't have to go get a coffee refill, but if I do, I don't know if you guys mind waiting for a couple seconds, but it's getting a little bit low. My coffee is a little weak, I'll be honest. I really just enjoy the aroma and the flavor, but I do not need coffee for energy. So I kind of water it down a little bit. Just stay tuned in, Psychic Self-Defense. Hi, by the way, short-term listener, long-time learner. Cool. I like that. So, outside of this physical touch, nobody is physically touching you. At that point, it just becomes choice. How aware are you? Right? How are you checking into your experience? What is your emotional scale? How are you feeling about how the other people are attempting to control you, attempting to manipulate you? But there's no such thing as control. They always have the power of choice. Control is one of the deepest illusions. But learning to change with change, learning to bob and weave and move in just the right way, it requires a certain flexibility. So I have a physical flexibility, and then I have a metaphysical flexibility, because the principles are just as applicable, in our mind as they are in our body. Right? So all of these things are perfectly applicable. I don't believe in masters, no. I believe that mastery is an attempt to control. It's a control word, to say that I have mastered something, that there's nothing left to learn. So no, I don't prescribe to the word master. Interesting that you would say that, because that's also, when I get into my martial arts communities, I don't say that, because they're not ready for it. They're not ready for me to say that there is no such thing as mastery. You are making a very vague attempt at controlling. You want to say that you control this martial art. You have mastery over it. Bullshit. It's a learning experience for the rest of your life. There's no such thing as mastery, unless we're talking very relative. Very, very relative. Maybe you could put a definition of mastery. But in the broad term, I don't prescribe to that word. And since I have complete volition over my thought process, and I say volition because it's choice, it's not control. I'm not controlling my mind. I'm not, I don't do that. I make the choice. I tune into my body. I tune into my choices. I tune into my surroundings. So we have a customer call the restaurant. They are cussing up a storm. They are pissed because they didn't get their beans, or they didn't get the fork, the utensils in their their to-go bag. And the employee is just absorbing it, just taking it all in. completely unaware, and allowing it to affect them on a psychological level. Allowing it to affect them on a psychological masters. A guide is fine. A guide is, I mean, that's not an attempt to control. How is it controlling? You know, a guide is just, you know, here, I can help you understand this terrain. You know, I can help you navigate something that you've never quite navigated before, because I've done it. So a guide is not a control word as far as I'm concerned. But this is just a reflection of my mind. Nothing absolute. You can take that or leave that. Put that in your toolbox or just say Ernest is an idiot. I don't care. So, you know, the customer calls. They're very angry. It turns out that this particular customer didn't even come to our restaurant. But that's a different story, a different point. So he's yelling at the employee. The employee is just taking it in, you know. And she's like, here, just talk to this person. I'm like, okay. So I take the phone, and I realize that their words have nothing to do with me. Their psychological suffering is a choice. They're choosing to be this unconscious. Now, they don't see it as a choice, of course, because it's not a conscientious choice. But even an unconscious choice is a choice. It's a choice that has been ingrained into their habitual patterns. I don't have habit. My coffee every morning is not a habit. I don't need it. I wake up feeling chipper as fuck. Like I jump out of the bed, click my heels, and what's good today? I'm excited. But this is a ritual. It's a ritual I enjoy. It's a ritual I experience, and I cultivate it, and I love it. And if it doesn't serve me, it will drop from my experience. So, when I take this phone call, I allow. His words pass right through me. If you punch me, it's going to pass right through me. And your energy that's going that way is going to propel you more that way. Right? So, when someone tries to come at me, I allow it. Come on, come at me with all of your force. Because it's your force that's going to put you on the ground. Right? The harder you come at me, the harder you hit the ground. I just had a fight with my boyfriend, and now I am down. But from what you say, I tried to control the situation, of course. And I'm not ready to talk about this subject yet, because a lot of people are going to be very... I might do this on my own group or my own Facebook page, just because the Abraham Hicks Vortex group has a wide variety of minds. You know, there's 100,000 some odd people in there, and if I start talking about some of these things, like controlled dramas, for example, a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, like, stop, you know, this is too much. So, because you will be surprised all the areas that people are attempting to control. Just stay tuned, Sarah. I will let you know. So, this customer is just cussing. I do not take responsibility for another person's psychological suffering. I do not. That's insane. I can't exist in the mind of another person. My mind is an illusion. Existing in your mind is like illusion in illusion. And that's like, you know, what's that movie? Inception. That's like on some Inception type stuff. So the person is yelling at me, cussing at me. I feel compassion. Like I feel a little bit, you know, sad for this person in some extent, because they allowed a lack of utensils to totally turn them into this. They are anger in that moment. And that's why anger has no validity in my experience anymore, because anger requires unconscious patterns to accumulate. Anger is a very powerful emotion. It doesn't, unless the person is just totally unconscious and has been in these habitual patterns for a very long time, anger requires momentum. Anger doesn't usually, for most people, just 1 second they're, and the next second they're angry. It doesn't usually work that way. For most people, anger, being such an extreme emotion, requires the momentum to accumulate. And anger requires a ton of energy. That's true. That's true. And I can explain that on so many levels physically because I study the art of physical relaxation. So when a person is angry, they're existing in one of the most extreme emotions. Hate is another one. Anger will lead to hate. And it's due to momentum. You know, most people don't just instantly wake up hating something. The perpetual thought patterns ingrain it. It drives it into the subconscious. And then later they become triggers. I have no triggers. I don't get angry. And it's not because I controlled this emotion. It's not because I... Hi, Sabrina. It's not because so when you talk about bipolar, you're talking about if it is real bipolar and if it's different conditions of the physical brain. So there are physical conditions of the brain that is not what I'm talking about. Right? So everything is a machination of our brain. All of our emotions, all of our feeling into our body is done so through our brain. It's through sensory perception and processing those senses in the brain. So if there's something physically wrong with the brain, and I say wrong, but just maybe abnormal, not the same as the majority of most people, I guess is a good way to say it, then you know, there's different circumstances surrounding that, of course. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, the typical brain, you know, the typical thought patterns. Good morning. I like the name Pearl. That's cool. Of course they can, Nicole. Yep. And when you have certain mental disorders, and I don't know if those are good words to use really, but some of them are self-inflicted over years and years of psychological suffering. But some of them are physical abnormalities. If you have a physical abnormality in the brain, for example, there's sometimes where pain can feel like pleasure. Now, it's not a good or bad thing, it's just the way that person's brain is. Those two parts, those two areas of the brain are very close to each other. So, you know, going back to that, the customer's on the phone, the customer's cussing up a storm, I feel a little bit of, you know, empathy, a little bit of compassion for this person. Not too much, because it's his fault, you know, it's his choice. He doesn't realize it, but I can't take responsibility for his psychological suffering. I can't take responsibility for his anger. It has nothing to do with me. So any person that's standing there trying to affect you, you can just simply not participate. Why do you have to react? Why do you have to be right? Why do you have to get the last word in? Why do you have to prove something? If you can tell me why, I'd like to know. Because there's no real reason. Why do you ever have to be right? What does that do? And chances are, if you're arguing with somebody, do they ever leave the conversation saying, you know what? I'm changed. Ernest was right. Whew, that was close. Of course not. When you meet a person with tension, when you meet a person in an energetic vibration such as anger, frustration, jealousy, any of those things, I have never seen, personally, an example of where the two people shook hands afterwards, hugged and kissed. Of course not. Both parties walk away even more pissed, even more ingrained in their own belief, as if belief is somehow a reflection of absolute reality. It's opinion-based. I have my opinions, but I don't cling to them, because my opinions change over time as new information is presented. So there's no reason for me to cling to my opinions. It's just not necessary. I don't have to do that. So this customer that's cussing at me, it has nothing to do with me, everything to do with them. So that person that is constantly being negative or constantly talking about other people, why do you energetically have to connect to any of that? Why do you energetically have to interact with any of that? You don't. It's a choice. So I become the empty space. Come on in. I don't mind. I don't identify with the words, I am empathetic. I am an empath. I have disidentified with that story, and I no longer take on the emotions of other people unless I want to. Because even that is a choice. But subconsciously we drive into our mind that it's necessary. or that this is our condition. We are empaths, so this is just it, the way it is. No, even that can be worked with. Even being an empath or having empathetic ability or having some sort of psychic ability, you can learn to interact in a way that does not, mean anything absolutely. So I have disidentified with this, I am an empath, I will take on everybody's emotions, I don't know what to do in a room. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. You can change your story because there's nothing absolute about it. You are the you are. You are the creator. There are no rules. There are no limitations. Hosier said, wouldn't it be easier if there was a right way? But there is no right way. However you do it, however you get there is however you did it and however you got there. I don't prescribe behavior in those terms. I will explain the blueprint. I will explain how to work with the principles of the universe. So Pearl, because maybe the reason you find it hard is because you have in the past tried to control it. Tabula rasa, yeah, a blank slate. The mind of no mind. Wu wei. Actionless action. Wei wu wei. Taiji. From Wuji, no extreme, came Taiji, grand extreme, which then formed yin yang. And from yin yang came the 10,000 things. I have practiced the art of detachment. And my version of, I'll explain that later. I'll do a whole Facebook Live on detachment. And detachment is one of the reasons that I can operate from a position of power and ease and effortlessness when I want something, when I have a desire. But I don't cling to my desire. What about this personal or family have to meet or contacting daily? It's the same thing. You can approach it as practice. You have no idea how different I am from the rest of my family. And I know Shayna would just shake her head when she hears that, because my brothers are totally different. My parents are totally different. They are nothing like me. One time my brother tried to kill me because he was wearing my hat. I'm not joking. One day he had a Dallas Cowboys hat, and that's my hat. You know, he's a Redskins fan, first of all. So why would he ever have a Cowboys hat? So he has my hat on, and I'm like, bro, that's my hat. Can I have my hat back? I want to wear it. He's like, it's not your hat. I'm pretty sure it is. You know, that's my hat. And so he takes the hat, holds it in his hand, and then he puts me in a headlock, and he has my neck like this, right? He may not have broken it. I'm assuming that he wouldn't, but he was a little unbalanced, of course. So he's essentially threatening to break my neck if I don't admit that my hat is his hat. And being a stubborn son of a bitch like I was, you know, I'm like, no, dude, that's my hat. Break my neck. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to admit to you that my hat is your hat. And then he let me go. But the point being is that my family is nothing like me. So you can imagine, what is it like going to Christmas? What is it like going to Thanksgiving? Because I don't hold a lot of value to holidays. I give them some value and enjoy what I choose to enjoy. And that has nothing to do with anybody else. If you love Christmas lights, do Christmas lights. If you are a Jehovah's Witness, then you don't do Christmas at all. If you're a different religion, you know, whatever. Some of the things that I say are just a reflection of my mind. Nothing absolute. You don't have to buy into any of that shit. So me not liking holidays as much as other people is just me. It has nothing to do with you or anything absolute. So sometimes I will share opinion. But even that opinion changes throughout the year. Sometimes I like Christmas. Sometimes I just look and I'm like, nope. But practice, practice, practice is the accumulation principle of skill. It's the snowball effect. It's a way to work with the blueprint. You get best at what you practice most. My brother practiced being a complete dick. He was really good at it. So the customer, again, is cussing at me, yelling at me, trying to affect me. You can't do it, buddy. I am an empty space. So I just let it go right through me. I redirect it. And I say, sir, I'm really sorry. You know, I'm really sorry that you feel this way. We didn't do our best. You didn't get the utensils that you deserved. and we made a mistake. How can I fix it for you? Can I bring you new food? Can I bring you some utensils? You're not that far away. I have a car. I have an employee who loves to drive fast. Even though I tell him not to, he still does it. So I could send him. What can I do for you? How can I help you? He realized he wasn't affecting me. He expected me to get pissed. He expected me to fight back like the other employee did. Why would I do that? What would be the point of that? Does that serve me in any way, shape, or form? Now, to be in this place of understanding and awareness, I have to check in. So on the phone, I'm checking into my body. Where is my breath? Am I reacting? Is my chi rising? Can I feel the energy coming up to my head? My face getting red? My eyebrows starting to crinkle? My temples starting to get stressed? Checking in. No, none of that stuff. Oh, cool. I'm all right. I'm relaxed. No problem. And I wasn't giving him what he wanted. I wasn't matching his vibration. He wanted me to. But that's my choice. It's my vibration. You can buzz off. Like you don't dictate me. You don't control me. So I didn't give in to it. I didn't let it interact with my energetic vibration. Just because I'm hearing it doesn't mean that I have to allow it in. It doesn't mean that I have to absorb it, I don't have to match that vibration just because it's coming my way. If I didn't check in, I would have been acting unconsciously. And only unconsciousness arrives from unconsciousness. It arises from unconsciousness. If you want volition, if you want power of will, if you want to be the creator, the conscious creator, you have to be conscious. You have to be conscientious. You have to check in. You have to be aware. I don't know who can see it, but right behind me right now is a very bright light of awareness. I am irradiating with awareness, if you can see that type of thing. People want to know why I wear black so much. Because to the person who can see the energy, they can see it even more. This black, in contrast to the light background, you can see aura more. And I want people who can see that to see that, because it'll help them. It'll make them feel good. Like, oh, there's a person radiating brightly amidst all of the other, not so brightly. Be aware at all times. But it takes practice. Practice. In very small ways you can do it. Easy peasy. Doesn't have to be, attempting to control. It doesn't have to be aggressive or anything like that. You can do it in very small ways and accumulate. Abraham teaches momentum. That's one of the number one teachings. Inner peace is also a teaching of Abraham. You just have to read between the lines. You have to really get into it and analyze it and not just learn what you want. That's something my teacher told me one day. He's like, Ernest, you're learning what you want. And I'm like, so? The hell are you talking about again? If my teacher says, Ernest, long time I've wanted to tell you this, I know he's about to clobber me. And back in the day, I would be defensive. I would tense up. Hi, Lisa. So, he would say, Ernest, a long time I've wanted to tell you. You're only learning what you want to learn. Knowledge doesn't always work that way. Now, that's another subject that maybe I can't touch on too much right now. It fits with the law of attraction. It fits with Abraham, but the way that I would explain it is maybe not what people are quite ready for. Maybe a little bit more earnest, and then over time that could be something you ease into. It's good to see you guys too. Inner peace is totally natural. We're born peaceful. And somebody will say, no, you're born crying. I mean, underlining that is peace. The baby is expressing like, holy shit, what just happened? Like, those words aren't going through the baby's mind because they're tabula rasa. They're the blank slate. They have excellent posture as soon as they learn how to sit up. They have amazing postures as soon as they learn how to walk. They're breathing from their abdomen exactly like they're supposed to. They're imaginative and they're wondrous and they're aware and they're allowing. It's so ironic that in actuality what we want to seek is the baby state. Right? It's the state of the child. teaching of Abraham. So the customer's, ripping into me, and, I give that loving response. I didn't match their vibration. I gave a different vibration. I gave the energetic vibration that I resonate with best. I will not match another person's shit. There's no reason for me to do that. It's a choice. If I'm tuned in, if I'm tapped in, if I'm turned on, I can make those choices. So the customer's yelling at me, really laying into me, and I just say, hey, I'm really sorry. Like, we did make a mistake. You should have your utensils, and there is no excuse. I'm not making one. How can I make this right for you? What can I do for you to make this better? We have been really busy. I'm interjecting this, of course, playing a little bit with the subconscious, because he's so unconscious at that moment. And I tell him that, we have been, really busy tonight. We're a little bit short-handed, but that's not an excuse. And even though I'm short-handed, I'm willing to send a driver to you right now to get you those utensils. And he says, oh, no, gosh, I'm sorry, that's not necessary. Wow, I was acting like a complete ass. He's like, it's just utensils, and I'm at home. I have utensils. And he's like, I don't know what got into me. I'm sorry. You don't have to bring me utensils. And I was like, I still will. Are you sure? And he's like, no, I'm really sorry. Can you tell the other woman that I got onto the phone with, I've been having a really bad day, and it's not her fault. Can you apologize to her for me? And then he started telling me where he works, and was offering me free food where he works, because he was also a manager at, I think it was like a pizza place or something. So at the end of the conversation, the beginning, he was cussing and demanding. At the end of the conversation, he was giving, loving, accepting, appreciating. He matched to my vibration. And it was his choice. He made that choice because he was seeing the contrast between us. I was the light for him. You can do that too. You don't have to react. Excuse me, you don't have to react in a way that matches you to their vibration. You can react in a way that is more conducive to you, that keeps you centered, that keeps you balanced, that keeps you under some semblance of awareness and volition. Politics, things like that. You don't have to tell people to shut up. If you're really strong, you also don't have to leave the room. So there are a lot of people say, and I can understand why in the beginning that this may be a critical component. It might be a tool that you put in your toolbox. It's a tool that I don't need. So I threw that away a long time ago. I don't need to remove myself. I don't need to surround myself with other earnests. I don't need to do that because they have no effect on me if I don't want them to. You cannot affect my subconscious when I'm fully aware. It doesn't happen. The only way that your subconscious can be affected is if you are fundamentally unconscious at that moment, which is what television does. You fall below consciousness. You're not creative. Your mind's not moving in a creative way. Quite typically, you're just zombified in. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes there's movies that are enlightening or uplifting or whatever, but, we're talking about the majority of watching TV for 6 hours. I think they said the average is 8 hours a day for the majority of Americans. I hope that's not true. And the reason I say that is because that's imbalance. TV is TV. There's nothing wrong with TV. There's nothing wrong with commercials. There's nothing wrong with subliminal messages. It is what it is. There's nothing wrong with anything. It's just us. It's how we react to it. It's what we do when it's here. Someday I'm going to explain that there is no such thing between higher and lower vibration. Not really. The vibrational scale is absolutely infinite. Can you tell me what small and big means on the scale of infinity? Of course not. However, because our minds are fundamentally binary, the synaptic connections are either firing or they're not firing, plus or minus, we create that. So we create this vibrational scale of low or high. And I don't vibrate, on this high-flying disc that people talk about. Because I'm on the disc of joy and peace and totality and completeness. And when I vibrate here with peace and joy and totality and completeness, so that I don't oscillate back and forth. There's a lot of people who, when they're in this high vibrating disc, they're posting that and they're like, woo, this is the life. And then I get a message a week later saying that they're experiencing the exact opposite. Because there's no peace, there's no root, there's no awareness. You can be on a high flying disc. If you're doing it unconsciously, it's going to drain your energy. Right? Let's say you go on a vacation and you spend the entire vacation running and doing, and it seems like you're on the high flying disc. It's very energetic, but then you just oscillate right out of it. You see it all the time. A lot of up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Because there's no peace, there's no root, there's no anchor, there's no awareness. Peace, awareness are synonyms. It's the same thing. You will have peace the more aware you are of your experience as it's happening. So when I'm on this high-flying disc of high vibration, I'm completely aware of it. I'm completely aware that this particular vibration cannot last energetically. My body can't handle it, at least right now. As I gain more momentum, there are no limits, but it's directly proportional to the momentum that you're gaining, which is exactly what Abraham teaches. It's not about just a week. I see a lot of people, 2 weeks ago, they were in this deep psychological suffering. 2 weeks later, they think that they're on top of the world, and they're ready for a world tour to talk about their magnificent changes. Cool story, but it's been a week. Like, are you sure? Maybe. There's no limits, I guess. I don't know. I don't judge you, but in my experience, as I observe patterns, that's not the case. But with underlining root of peace, you have joy. You have effortlessness. So I am attached to my dog. Buddha is absolutely right. The source of all suffering, psychological suffering, is rooted in attachment. Can you have a desire without being attached, without clinging, without allowing it to control you? If you can, desire becomes easy. You just flow. You just do. There is no try. I don't try. How does a person try? What is trying? You're either doing it or you're not. But with peace, which comes from awareness, which comes from that space in between the words, the silence behind the sound, the darkness behind the light that allows the light to fundamentally exist. These things are totally dependent on one another. I've attempted this 4 times. My life situation changing in tremendous ways. I'm entering a new chapter of my life. Can you tell me how to create a new blueprint? You can't create a new blueprint. You just choose to work with it. The blueprint is the way that the universe changes. So it's hard for us to see it that way because we are, most people are stuck in time. I'm not. I am timeless. I am not stuck in time. There's always just the now. So I have transcended time. I have transcended psychological suffering. So you don't want to create a new blueprint. Because you are the you are. It's how change changes. The golden mean ratio, Fibonacci sequence, pi. These are physical representations. You can see the geometrical patterns in the universe as they reveal themselves to you by allowing, by observing, by becoming more aware. That's the blueprint. There's no need to create a new blueprint. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to put it on your car so that you can go. You have to work with it. If you want to build a square wheel, you're going to realize that that's not necessary and it required more energy. It's disproportional. You have more going out than you have coming in. That's the law of thermodynamics, something that the human body is physically subject to. So when a person is riding on their, quote, high-flying disc, which actually, quite frankly, means that they don't understand the high-flying disc. If you going to a party and getting sloppy drunk and having the time of your life is the high-flying disc, you've missed the point entirely. Newsflash. And I'm sorry that I said that so bluntly. But then again, I'm not, because you're tuning into my broadcast. And it is the teachings of Abraham. Oh, my phone keeps telling me my storage is almost full. I take a lot of videos and pictures of stuff. So that's the message today. That there's choice, there's volition, there's will, there's awareness. You just have to be that. The more you can be that, then the less you are reactive to another person's energetic vibration. Time is an absolute illusion, but it's a very persistent one that you definitely would be advantageous to work with rather than against. Because time is just rate of change. This is simple. What's that, like 9th grade, 8th grade, 7th grade math? How do you calculate time? What is the distance? How long does it take to go from point A to point B? You have to calculate it in terms of rate of change. Rate of change is causality, cause and effect. And Sarah, I don't. This is also another little nugget. I don't know why I'm dropping bombs today. Like I'm saying a few things that are contrary to what some people are thinking in terms of law of attraction and Abraham, the teachings of Abraham. So my vortex, how to get in my vortex. This is how the vortex becomes abstract, because there is, no existential outside of ourselves vortex. You are the vortex. If you are vibrating in alignment, if you are connecting to your inner being and the universe as a whole, that's alignment. And when you start vibrating in alignment, you become the vortex. You are the vortex. There is no, hey guys, come on in. Now, because you are the vortex, you can interact with people. And I guess in a way you could say that that's bringing people into your vortex, right? But I do not teach the abstract, and I don't talk in abstract terms. My love is not abstract. My awareness is not abstract. My caring is not abstract. It's always in the present moment, or it's not. It's either valid because I'm giving it validity through my attention and will, or I am not. Out. So nobody is ever doing anything to you. It's always a choice. You can choose. You can practice, and you can learn to stay balanced, to stay centered, regardless of what people are throwing at you. And it comes through keen observation of yourself. Because only through keen observation of your own body, of your own energy, of your own emotional scale, can you ever work outward. Well, Abraham is delivering information to a collective consciousness, the human collective consciousness, relative to where we are conscientiously. So the information that they're delivering is what's needed at the time for most people. It's not what I need anymore. So I had been applying the law of attraction before the words law of attraction were ever strung together. I was applying the law of attraction way before I read Ask and It Is Given. And I'll be honest, everything in Ask and It Is Given is a nugget. But it's very difficult for me to read because I feel like I'm reading the most basic manual on how to deal cards or something. It was super repetitive to me. And it was using language that was just so simple that at the beginning I had a little trouble getting through it. I've read it several times by now. Oh, I almost forgot to talk about this book. So this book is called The Celestine Prophecy. Yesterday I was talking about a book that was written in the 1970s American hippie culture. And I don't mean hippie in a negative way. It's just a good description. And this is another great book if you want to understand the perpetuation of cycles. How feeding into anger or even trying to combat anger directly will only perpetuate more anger because the two mutually rely on one another to exist. You can think of good and bad as a coin. Let's say heads is good, tails is bad. It's the same coin. You cannot have one side of the coin without the other side of the coin. I exist on the edge. I am that third dimensional edge. I reside in the middle. When you look at the symbol of yin-yang, the symbol is not stationary. It's moving. It's always moving, and I reside in the middle. Sometimes I go to an extreme, but I do it with volition. I do it with attention. I do it with will. And it is a great book. And it is a great book, and it's told as a story. You know, it's told as a fun fiction. This is not nonfiction. It's a fictional book. But it has so much wisdom in it, like The Alchemist. You know, The Alchemist is fiction, but it's, God, there's so much in it. You know, there's so much powerful motivation and inspiration in that book. Inspiration, you know, to lead to motivation. But in this book it explains that, you know, all of the fighting against fuels. So let's say the gun situation in the United States. As you can imagine, I am neutral. I do not want to force or inflict my opinions, if I have any, on any other person. There's no need. I have not read Seth. But in Celestine Prophecy, he touches on the fact that if you fuel one side of it, the other side will tense. The other side will prepare for more. So you have this gun battle in the United States. You have two sides. One says take them away. One says I'll be damned if you try to take them away. So, you know, the more that they fuel this side, the more that they fuel this side. The more that this side fuels the gun, you know, we should, the more that this side says we shouldn't. And they just fight it out. There is an easier way. I mean, that is insanity. It doesn't seem that way because in retrospect people try to identify like civil rights being proportional to the protests. So the protesting is the reason that the civil rights movement was successful. And that's the American mindset. That's a very tunnel vision way of thinking because, newsflash, things like civil rights, things like slavery had been abolished in other countries around the world way before the United States. The United States was not the first country to abolish slavery. The United States did not invent democracy. I mean, tough. That's just the way it is. So I don't exist in either side of those arguments. I don't fuel either side of it. Instead, I illuminate it with peace and light and awareness. And I lead by example. Based on how I feel I should proceed. And that either inspires somebody to motivate or it doesn't. I have no control over it, and I don't try. I just offer what I have to offer and I leave it to the wind. If somebody finds value, then I'll keep doing it. If it looks like nobody likes anything I'm saying and I'm not connecting with anybody, then, you know, I'll go do something else with my time. Very flexible. I'm like bamboo. I bend, but I do not break. So just remember this. The next time that you're in a room and you're thinking, oh, you know, how do I deal with this? What do I do? You know, I'm taking on their emotions. I'm taking on their anger. You know, this person always does this to me. Sorry. Mythbuster, nobody is doing anything to you psychologically. It's all you. All you. And I hope this message is well received. I know that can seem a little bit abrasive. It can seem a little bit abrasive if you're so used to acting in a certain pattern. And it's not your fault. You know, I'm a very understanding individual. I've been there too. Even if it was for just a little while. You know, I existed in that for some time. I mean, it's the perpetual state of our environment. It's trying to perpetuate certain cycles because people are lost in the illusion. They're riding the roller coaster. They equate power to exercising will and force over other people. That's also an illusion. Can you have illusions without clinging and attaching? Can you have desires without clinging and attaching? Can you have opinions without clinging and attaching? Because clinging and attaching implies tension. So this is my ego. This is the illusionary sense of self, represented as a cup. So the Buddhist is going into the mountains or sitting in a busy city begging because they want to completely dissolve the self. They want, so this is the illusion, you know, this is the mind. And the mind is attached to the self. It's holding the self up. It's allowing the illusionary self to exist. So the certain type of Buddhist wants this cup to go away, because that's their path to enlightenment, they think. The condition of most people is, this is the illusion of self, this is my mind, and it's grasping. This is my mind, this is my illusionary self, and you cannot take it. I will fight you, I will kill you, I will do everything I can to prevent you from attacking my illusionary sense of self. That's tension, that's clinging, that's grasping, that's deep-rooted attachment. I found another way. Relax the mind. Have a self, but don't attach, don't cling, don't fight to defend it. Just enjoy it. I have no coffee to drink, so I had to simulate that. But just enjoy it. Enjoy the relative self. Enjoy the illusions. Create the life you want to create. I have desires. I am not attached to my desires. They only hold relative value. And guess what? I manifest all of my desires because of it. Because I have no mental resistances. When I want money, I get money. When I want sex, I get sex. When I want good coffee, I get good coffee. When I want to move up in a company, I move up in a company. When I want to own a restaurant or participate in the ownership of a restaurant, I participate in the ownership of a restaurant. When I want to start my own business, I start my own business. When I want to help people, I help people. When I want to write a book, I write a book. When I want to watch a little bit of TV because for whatever reason I find this program interesting, I do it. I would appreciate that, Kimberly. Just a little bit of sugar. Just a little bit, not too much. I try to... I monitor my sugar in a very relaxed way. I do it by eating vegetables. I don't count my teaspoons of sugar. I don't count my grams of sugar. I don't look at my nutrition labels. I follow the principles. It's best to eat from nature. It's best to eat from the source of light. So I just follow that simple principle. For the most part, I try to eat vegetables. I just eat vegetables. If there's something else in front of me, I'll eat something else that's in front of me. You know, when I started staying with my aunt and my uncle, they were worried that I was vegan. And they're like, oh shit, like what do I feed this guy? I don't identify with that story of being vegan, which is why I would never like stop, killing and eating animals, because I don't control you. I don't want to try to influence you. I don't want to try to influence to change, is what I'm saying. I don't want to control your mind. Just do what you want to do. And you'll learn, or you won't, as the case may be. It's your life. You have to live it. Trying to... Yep. How to relax the mind. This was so irritating to me in the beginning. Because my teacher would say, I'm like physically trying to relax my body. Trying to physically relax. And I'm like, I can't do it. How do I do it? And he's like, you just relax. Like, what? What kind of answer is that? How do I relax? Just relax. Turns out that's true. Turns out I have also no other way to explain it. But if you want to relax the mind, you have to work with the propensity of the stream of dialogue. The propensity of it to just gain momentum and continue and continue and continue. So the perpetual mind is repetitive dialogue. It's just thinking useless thoughts. It's not serving you. It's just over and over and over, and there's no balance. I don't try to stop. I don't try to control my thinking mind. I interject balance. Sarah, you were cut off? What you mean? I don't know what you mean. Did I start saying something and then I just flipped the script to something different? Because I do that sometimes. Can we just have fun? Yes. I have fun with my ego. It doesn't rule me. It doesn't control me. And by ego, I mean all of the mind stuff. As Eckhart Tolle would define ego. I don't participate in Freudian psychology. Once you read Kant, I can't. So, one of the ways is simply learning to check in. You know how to check in. You know how to go into your sensory perception. right? What am I hearing? I hear sprinklers. What am I smelling? Rain. We have a hurricane coming. The light is a little bit dim. I'm at peace. My energy is flowing smoothly because after 10 years of training, I have learned to manipulate my energy with my mind. This takes years of training. It's called Yi leads Qi. So Ivana, I can I'll make another Facebook about balance. I think that's a good subject. That's something I need to touch on. If you go to my website, ernestcurlick.com, I am starting to talk about my principles, and I'm doing it with illustrations, and one of them is balance being power, and how to work with balance, how to gently interject balance into your experience without force, without effort, without trying, without all of those things. I don't try to understand. This is a plague that I see, and I view it as a plague because it's one of the deepest forms of control. This is why when somebody wants to understand something, they think that more words are going to help them understand. This is the illusion. This is the attachment to illusion. It's just my name.com. Ernest, all one word, KROLICK.com. I'll post it down there sometime when I'm finished. So, it's one of the deepest forms of attempting to control. And I don't do that. I don't try to control knowledge, because this is just words. Words are just descriptions, folks. There's nothing absolute about it. You can reason on it until you're blue in the face. You can reason on martial technique all you want to. You can read, you can read, you can read, you can become, you can quote the books. You can quote this classic, word for word. But if you don't practice physically, you will not be able to apply it. Bottom line. It's the accumulation principle of skill. So it's the same thing with knowledge, with understanding. It's not on the intellectual level. That's really difficult for most people to understand because our brain is fundamentally binary. The synaptic connections are either firing or they're not, plus or minus, 1 or 0. But we can transcend that. And I'm not going to start calling it all of the fancy catchphrases because it's existed for 10,000 years. I've been hearing 5D a lot, and that's great. If that's a way a person wants to describe it in a way that a person can understand, okie dokie. Cool. If people want to call it New Age spirituality, I'm okay with that. However, the Hopi, the Indians, the Hopi, they believe they were star people. They believe that, and there's tribes in Africa that believe that they came from the stars, and on the walls of the cave they have star charts, even in South America, of stars that are not visible with the human eye. You cannot see these stars. How did they know that they were there? This is not New Age. There's no such thing. There are no secrets. You know everything that you've ever needed to know. You were born enlightened. You were born free, to an extent. Physically, you do require some help. So I'm not selling secrets. I'm not peddling the deepest, whatever, 5D quantum leveling up. I actually have a background in physics. If you want to talk about quantum physics and how our mind physically affects the universe, I'm game. If you want to talk about geometry, I've studied geometry in great detail because it's the language of the universe, not numbers. Zeros, ones, all of these numbers are just a description of the abstract. Can anybody tell me what 0 is? Show me 0. That's weird. What is 0? What is that? Nothing? What is nothing? Show me nothing. Space is not nothing. Give me an example of 0 in my experience, and I'll be very interested to see it. There are an infinite amount of decimal points between the number 1 and the number 2. Infinity exists between one number and the other. How on earth do we ever go from one number to another? You know, in terms of mathematics, they just accepted that we just got to. And that there's a functional reason to go from 1 to 2, and I can accept that relative value. I like to add. It's no problem for me. But it's an illusion. However, geometry is something you can observe. Look at a flower. Look at its geometrical structure. Look at a hurricane. Look at its geometrical structure. How many straight lines do you see in nature? Play with the lines in your awareness and you can find the truth. You'll see. Most people don't see. They're just looking. Most people don't really hear. They don't really listen. They're just hearing. They're not really experiencing because they're not checking in. They're not aware. I take what Eckhart Tolle says one step further. We're not just the watcher. We're the power behind the watcher. We are the fundamental force of the universe that allows every single atom to coalesce. The entire universe in a single atom. That's us. That's you. That's me. It's just an aspect of us. Ernest is just an aspect of the totality of us. You're just another aspect of me. I'm just another aspect of you. And then we break it down in relative sense so that we can function in our environment, which is what the brain is marvelous at doing. It allows the human physicality to function in its environment. So someday I'm going to explain how the evolution of the human species is directly relative to movement and the adaptation to change. I don't just move my physical body, although I do. You know, I learned to move my body in very peculiar ways, you know, very energetic ways. and this all comes from, you know, my martial art. I learned to move my energy with my body. It takes years of practice. I can't teach you this tomorrow. In fact, I'm not even qualified to teach you how to work with qi. It takes a really high-level master. In the terms that Chinese would use it, it's just my teacher. It's the person who tells me what to do. It's not the master of the art. Americans like to use it as I'm a master of this art. And that's an attempt to control I don't prescribe to. Right? So I move my body. And it's from this physical movement that I can evolve. It's from this energetic movement that I can evolve. Because evolution is relative to movement. I am evolving. Someday, I plan to evolve out of this physical existence. I haven't decided if I want to be a star being or maybe one of the center of the earth type beings. Non-carbon based, of course. I'll let you know or I won't. But I do believe in the evolution of consciousness. Not better, not worse. You know, we don't need to think it in those dualistic terms. Just throw that shit away for a while. The evolution of consciousness, the next phase of what we're capable of. And that's why we're getting help. Why else would Abraham be helping us if we didn't have the potential for more? Don't try to tell your mom anything, Sarah. Don't force it. If you try to meet a Jehovah's Witness with tension, you're going to get a lot of resistance. They're not going to listen. I'm the devil, right? There's no way you're Jehovah's Witness. If they're practicing Jehovah's Witnesses, they are not going to listen to me. I had Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door. So the last time I had a Jehovah's Witness come, I was living in an apartment. And I invite them in. Come, sit down, have tea. If they're Mormons, I don't offer them coffee. I'll give them a glass of water. But don't quote your book. I don't want to know about your book. Don't try to fill me with more words. Tell me how you've experienced God. Tell me how you've experienced your truth. Let's talk about experience. How did you cross the divide between the theory of your rules and regulations as brought to you by your interpretation of the Bible? I've read the Bible. And I wish I would have skipped Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, because it was boring. Job was good. Habakkuk. I'm saying that wrong probably, but it's one of the last books of the Old Testament. Who talks about that one? Why? Ecclesiastes 9:5. The conscious are living. They're aware of their death. But the dead are conscious of nothing at all. What? The dead are conscious of nothing at all? Look it up. Ecclesiastes 9:5.
Yes, I am well versed in religion. So I'm about the evolution of species. You can't change your Jehovah's Witness mother. So this is called the Celestine Prophecy. I highly recommend it. Super duper recommend it. But what you can do, Sarah, is inspire. So when the Jehovah's Witness comes to my door, they're like, so tell me, how can I help you solve your suffering, your psychological... What suffering? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, all of the emotional distress that you're feeling in these tough times. That's your suffering that you're trying to counterbalance and force a way out of your experience. Don't put me in your box. I don't have that shit. And they're like, what? You found heaven already? It was here all along, buddy. I didn't have to find it. It was there. It found me by allowing. So knowledge. Take that flower example. You are the flower. The sun is the knowledge. You can't suck it in. The flower doesn't force it. It's not like, I'm going to suck in the sunlight. It opens and allows. You can do that with knowledge. You can do that with understanding. You just open and allow and it comes to you. I'm not quoting other people's shit. I'm not telling you what somebody else wrote. I'm telling you how I do it. How do I do it? That's the only thing really unique. I can get up here and quote Buddha, all of these famous authors, and some people will be like, you're right on, Ernest. And then I'll go drink a beer, and I'll go sit down in front of the TV for 8 hours, and I'll get back up in front of Facebook Live and tell you how I'm on a high-flying disc. No, I can't do that. I just give you what I've done and how I've done it. And that's why I offer those one-on-one sessions. Because for a little while, I have extra time to do it. I am not a coach. I'm a teacher. I have something to teach. I can teach the techniques and the tools of crossing this bridge. Some people don't want to work with them because they're so... I'm not meeting force with force. So it's a roundabout way. If I really wanted to teach you something directly, we would go into the woods, not say a fucking word, and you would come out knowing so much more than if I had just quoted you, asking it as given. If I give you a YouTube video of Esther in question and answer, people are asking Abraham these answers, and even Abraham said, we do a lot of conferences, a lot of question and answers, but we should have only needed to do one because we're saying the same shit every single time. That person, how do I manifest money? And Abraham is always like, oh, here we go. It's the same as manifesting everything else. Only you have a mental resistance to it because for some reason you think it's hard. Money's not hard. I don't have a desire to accumulate in my bank account. If there's something I need, I get it. I don't focus on the money, but sometimes the money comes because that's the energetic bridge that I needed to achieve the desire. But I have never really focused on the medium of money. If I needed a new car, I didn't focus on the money, I focused on the car. How do I get that car? What is the step right in front of me? First of all, peace. Relaxation. I will operate from this space to maximize my potential of success. That is the blueprint. Yeah, the birthdays are not celebrated by Jehovah's Witnesses because they're following the text of the Bible by word for word. So there were only 2 birthdays celebrated in the Bible, and in both the Christian got their heads cut off. So they don't understand the value of celebrating birthdays. I can understand that. Sure. That's your choice. Go do your thing. So when the Jehovah's Witness comes to my door, tell me your experience. And that's what I'm doing with you guys. I can share my experiences of how I cross this divide between theory and application. I don't want to just recite all of the books to you. I don't want to just get in here and say everything that was from the last Abraham convention. The 2017 conventions, interestingly, the message is changing because they're realizing that the human consciousness is also evolving in an effortless way. How do I know? Mandala coloring books. In 2011, I started coloring because I wanted to improve my visualization techniques and my dreaming. I have complete volition over my choices in my dreaming body. I go through dreams making choices. But I wanted more color in my dreams. I found that they were a little bit bland, a little bit black and whitish. So I started playing with color more. And I'm not very good right now at drawing because I haven't accumulated that skill. So I would just start coloring, right? Before, I had to go online and search for coloring books because they just weren't around. 2017, go to Barnes & Noble. You have a whole section on mandala coloring books. They're in Walmart. So I have always used American inflation. I have always gauged it with the price of a candy bar. A candy bar, even though I don't eat candy, was once 50 cents. So now I can just gauge how far am I getting from that point of emphasis that I placed. And it's kind of the same thing. You know, I use that same process of evaluation. All right, so I'm going to get out of here. I have somebody to talk to in about 30 minutes. Going to refill my coffee cup and do some stretching. I love to stretch. It feels good. It releases tension and energy. I don't do it for any particular reason. I don't do my martial art for any particular reason, per se. I know what will come from it, and that's great. But I just do. I do because I know. And this knowing comes from years of observation, of watching these cycles. I watch couples go in and out. One day they're happy, one day they're fighting. One day they're happy, one day they're fighting. And they're like, Ernest, why is this happening to me? And I'm like, really? You're performing the same experiment, expecting a different result? Nothing here's changed. Nothing here's changed. How do you expect anything else outside of you to change? So no, I'm not going to participate in your cycles. I'm not going to make you feel better. If you want to know how I feel, what I view as truth, I'll tell you. I am available. The sage makes herself available, and then she leaves it to the wind. She walks away. And that's what I've done. I've made myself available. The one-on-one session is available through my website. But I'm doing these Facebook Lives, and I'm also doing classes, by the way, free classes. I'm about to, I think maybe today, I'll start scheduling next week's classes because all of them have been sold out, 15 out of 15 for those classes. The webinar was 50 out of 50. Not all 50 showed up, of course. Not all 15 showed up for the free classes. Interesting thing, and I've read the psychology of it, but when something's free, people don't value it as much. So I've been giving free classes, and a lot of the people, some people have just not shown up, not sent a message, and just not came to the meeting. That can be for a variety of reasons, too. I'm a very understanding person. Maybe it went into their spam folder, and they weren't able to see the confirmation. So those are things that I can try to work on my end. But my Facebook Lives will always be free. I'm doing free classes. Those take 45 minutes out of my time every time I do them, and it's just absolutely free. I don't want to charge you for the live classes. Live classes, as I give them for now, are free. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this stuff because I want to build martial artist schools. There's these really high-level martial artists, like amazing. They've been teaching for 40 years. But they don't know a damn thing about technology. They don't know a damn thing about local marketing. They've never really ran a business, and their school is a business. So they need balance. Okay, so I'll see you guys next time. I've been doing daily Facebook Lives, and I really enjoy the morning time. That's when I'm most vibrant. Because I wake up happy. I wake up ready to go. I wake up full of energy and abundance. And then I wake up and I start moving. Right? I start moving in ways that I know will have a particular effect on my physical body. I don't do it because I want to relax. That's just the result. You know, that's what happens from the natural movement. 18 gates, it's on my website. You can work with it if you want to. I've given everybody examples of the best way to move in the morning according to Ernest. Just get that body moving, you know, get the joints lubricated. We live in a physical universe. We have a physical body. Yes, I can use my mind to bend the principles, but typically I just work with them. So you can go to my website. I have the free 18 gates. You can learn ways to work with your joints, get them lubricated. You will feel better. Energy needs to physically flow. This is Chinese philosophy. Qi. Qi needs to flow smoothly. When you can learn to manipulate Qi with your mind, move energy with your mind, you will be a manifesting maniac. However, it takes a long time. So not too many people want to do that. Not too many people want to take the time to understand the intricacies of feeling this internal energy. And people think that body awareness is Qi. It's an aspect of Qi, but it's not the same thing. I'll list my website, but it's really just my name.com. One word.com, ernestkrolick.com. So I have free classes for people to sign up. Some of them are booked right now. I have one-on-one sessions, and I'm telling you now, those aren't free. I picked the absolute lowest end of one-on-one sessions. One of my teachers, David Dorian Ross, charges $75 for 30 minutes. There's another guy in this group, I won't say any names, charges $1,500 for 90 minutes. Holy shit. I gotta be honest, I wouldn't pay $1,500 for 90 minutes with the Dalai Lama. I can read the man's books. But that's just me. That has nothing to do with you. You can do what you want. Yes, movement is essential to evolution. It's very important. To me. And I can prove how that is also true outside of the human experience. What else can I keep it? I have no other version of me. I was told that myth long ago, that there's the person you want to be, the person you actually are, and the person that people see you as. No. I decided that that's not true. Not to my experience, not anymore. There are no other versions of me. I am synthesis. I am as authentic as I can possibly be. So I appreciate your comments. I really love the interaction. I feel I'm getting better at Facebook Live in terms of interacting with folks and, doing all of that. So that's an accumulation principle of skill. Most people who know me would just be shocked that I'm doing a Facebook Live. They're like, what? Ernest doing a Facebook Live? That's weird. But I felt the desire to use this medium, use this avenue of communication to share, to make myself available. I follow a lot of the principles in the Tao Te Ching, the Chinese Book of Changes, the I Ching, I Ching, right? So I follow these principles. I quiet the ego. I make humility and acceptance. I move forward like a fox on ice, cautiously, deliberately, and gently. Truth is relative. What is truth? Why are people so obsessed with truth? It's an attempt to control. I want to know what's true so I can know what's false. That's binary. I don't deal with abstract, and I typically don't deal with the binary unless it's a necessary step for somebody. So the truth is always relative. History, for example, is just a version of somebody's story. We know that history, when told from two different perspectives, often is very different. So if you are to witness an accident, a car accident, unless you've had significant training, Jesse, your mind is going to go into fight or flight. You are going to have a physical, energetic, physiological response to stimuli. And you are going to enter a different vibrational state, and it's called state memory. So if you witness an accident, after the accident, chances are you're not going to remember the details. And the police know this. So that's why they try to get the information as soon as they can. You can't leave the scene of the crime. Stay here. We need to know. We need to jot all this down now. Right? And that's because you entered a state memory, because your energetic state was in this position, and that's where you were, but when you came back down to this position, you can't remember. The caterpillar doesn't know what it's like to be a butterfly. They can't even visualize that because of the metamorphosis that's necessary for the transformation. On a cellular level, it's complete transformation. What type of diet do I eat? I can talk more about diet and things like that later. So I'm going to make complete Facebook Lives on how I eat, how I drink, how I proceed, and I do it in a way that's effortless and that makes me feel good. So I just follow principles. And the principle makes it easy. If I follow principles, I don't need to check saturated fat. I don't need to check, all of the sodium and all of this and all of that, how much protein I'm getting. Human breast milk has the lowest content of protein than any mammal on Earth. Why is protein such a focus? I don't know. I don't care. I don't participate in that type of turmoil. I just follow the principles. I know that energy comes from the sun. The energy from the sun goes into the plants. I eat the plants, I get the energy. All protein comes from plants. The protein in the animal is recycled protein from the plant. Do your research. All protein comes from plants. I'm located currently in Florida. I'm traveling around and visiting with people and living the life that I desire. Writing my book. Doing all kinds of fun stuff. I would really like my book to be in every single library. It will have book sales, and maybe I can use some of that for my son's college. He just got accepted to Iowa. It was his first Big Ten school, and he's really stoked about that. He's really, really excited about his first college acceptance. Iowa. He wants to be in a Big Ten school. All right. I'm going to refill my coffee cup and get ready for talking to somebody. Visit my website if you feel inspired to do so. I don't have the Facebook Live videos on the mobile version. I'm still working with some of that code. For some reason, it's just not the same. The YouTube uplinks weren't working the same. So if you go to a desktop or tablet version of my website, then just click Facebook Live videos. And then on the main page, I have some of my latest ones. But I think I have like 4 more to add that were recent. I'm 37. I will be 38 in November. What month is this? September. Oh, that's next month. Cool. I have the retired feeling. It started with the vacation feeling. And it is not dependent on external circumstances. I accumulated and vibrated and worked with the feeling of vacation despite working 8 hours every day in a kitchen running a restaurant. I maintained the feeling of vacation. Someday I'll tell you how I did it. Again, that's what I feel like I bring. That's the reason I do Facebook Lives. That's the reason I'm teaching. Is because I am not just offering fluff. I'm not just reading books. I'm not just being scholarly with you, right? I'm not just, repeating information that somebody else had already written and has passed down through the generations, and I'm not just going to rearrange it in a different way just to make it seem like it's my original mind. That's bullshit. I'm not going to do that to you guys. I'm not going to try to fool you in that way. But what I will do is I'll give you specific examples of how I cross the divide between theory and application. How am I living the life that I deserve and that I want? How am I doing it so effortlessly, so easily? Why don't I have psychological suffering? Why am I physically more powerful than at any point in my entire life? Why am I more healthy than at any point in my entire life? Why are my relationships blossoming and growing more than they ever have been in my entire life? Why am I continuing to evolve my mind, evolve my body, and evolve as a human being? How am I doing it? I can guarantee you it's not from what I've read. It is, that helps, that's the pointer. Words are the pointer, thoughts are the pointer. I choose. Choice. Sometimes choice, however, it can be a fickle thing. You think you're picking what food you want. However, because the mind cannot be separated from the body cannot be separated from the mind, therefore they are the same thing. When you start working with them as a whole, you start learning a lot more. You start discovering a lot more. So the gut has bacteria, microorganisms that communicate up the spinal column in the parasympathetic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. And it sends signals to your brain, the bacteria in your gut, as to what it wants, what it needs to continue to reproduce. That's cool. Fun stuff. Choice. Choice is infinite. It's not binary. Do I go left or do I go right? That's not a choice. You have to use your imagination to fully understand choice. Imagination comes from source. Creativity comes from source. You are source. So I'm not ready to teach people how to levitate. I'm not ready to teach people how to go deeper, 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 deeper into source. Because there's still people littering. Like, we're trying to pass all of these laws and all of these, drastically changing things about the American society. And there are still people who litter. People who still think that it's okay to throw my shit out on the ground. Why do we need to go deeper when the surface is still there? It still needs to be addressed. We still have to address the very basic aspect of checking in, of finding the power of the now and working with it with the law of attraction. Because all of these things work together. The Tao Te Ching, the I Ching, the Bible, all of these things. It fits. Take away some of the mind stuff and it will fit. Take away some of the abstract ideology, the attempts to control, and it will fit. Jesus told us, why do we worry about tomorrow when today has its own contrast? I use the word contrast because that has often been translated as problems, but that's not an accurate translation. Why worry about tomorrow when today is today? Jesus was telling you not to worry. Focus on the now. Okay. I love you guys. Again, thank you so much for being a space for me to share. It brings me energy, it brings me a lot of love and a lot of joy, and I'm very thankful for it. There is no deep or shallow topic, just topics. Yes, there are no secrets. Yes. If somebody's telling you that they're selling you a secret, it's because they want your money. They want it to seem exclusive. Only I have these secrets. Only I can take you to the 5-dimensional upgrading level of quantum whatever. That may be great. That may be exactly what you need. But that has nothing to offer me. And therefore I can't offer it to you. Because I don't understand it. It's not valid in my experience. I don't see that being a part of the blueprint. I see it as being an abstract ideology that requires $1,500 for 90 minutes to understand. Or even to have that information delivered. Have you ever gone to a convention or a retreat and you leave feeling like $1 million? It physically changed your energy. What happens a week later? What happens? All right. I'm officially signing out, and I love you guys. I really appreciate you guys. I feel so much love for this group. I don't do Facebook Lives on any other group, really, than the Abraham Hicks Vortex group. I really enjoy this space. You guys are so comfortable and so allowing, and I stopped acknowledging the trolls, because that just feeds them. I really am so grateful that I have trolls. A troll is somebody who basically has no real productive intention. They just want to annoy the shit out of the person that's, giving the broadcast. That's a sign that I've come up in the Facebook Live world, because I have somebody trying to bring me down. You can't do it. It's impossible. You can't affect me. No way. And if you try to put your hand on me, that's a completely different story, right? That's physical touch. You will not feel comfortable inside my space. I have a box that's called my arm's length. If you have ill will, I recommend staying outside of that length. But energetically, psychologically, outside of physical touch, you can't affect me unless I allow it. Right? So I'm really excited to have trolls. I even have some sending me messages. You're full of shit. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I've seen that before. I've seen other people who do Facebook Lives. They gain a lot of popularity. I can post a picture of the greatest Kung Fu master on earth, and there'll be somebody saying he's doing it wrong. That's cool. That just means I've come up in that regard. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here. I really love you guys. And you can feel that this love is visceral. You can feel that when I say this and you look into my eyes, you know I mean it. You know I'm being authentic. You can feel that. You can feel it in my words, you can feel it in my examples, you can feel it in my energy, because it's not bound by space and time. Everybody that is locked into this broadcast currently is locked into my energetic vibration, and I'm sending you love. I'm sending you peace. And from that you can experience joy. And from that you can oscillate in an extreme if you choose to, because you have the underlying basis of peace. Alright, so I'm out. See you guys most likely tomorrow.